Okay, now we're back. All right, so so yesterday, so I was talking about deeds, and I we started talking about deeds when we were talking about possessions and talking about possessory interest and that kind of stuff. We mentioned that deeds were one of the ways of transferring property, uh, together with the device. Remember, we said device is when a person passes away, and the will or the law says that the heirs of that person end up getting the possession of the properties that that person owns. So in this case, we're going to be talking about deeds and titles. Yesterday, I also mentioned that titles are the actual lawful ownership of real property, and it comes from the times of the kings, the queens, the kingdoms. Titles is what you have. So you are an archduke, you are a queen, you're a king. They give you a piece of land, and they also give you a title with it. So if you watch any of those movies, Game of Thrones or uh, The Last Kingdom, all that stuff, you're gonna see that the guys, the little guys, let's call them, that are not king, they also have titles. So if they own properties and they also have like people that lives close by the property that kind of work for them. So let's say that these are the people that are the freehold owners of those states, and then the people outside that kind of work for him are the leasehold. Okay, so they own the whole land, but the person with the title is the freehold, the person that freeholds the state. Okay, so nowadays there is no such a thing as a title. There is no such a thing as an actual physical title, something that you can carry around and say, "Oh, my name is Manuel Reposo, and this is my title that shows that I'm the owner of, Nassau County or something like that." There's no such a thing. What you have nowadays is a deed. Okay, and a deed is the actual written piece of paper that shows that someone has conveyed to you a property. Okay, so as it says here, the definition: an instrument that conveys a grantor's interest in real property to someone else, the grantee. I also mentioned yesterday that we have, when it comes to a deed, since you're granting something, you have the two words: a grantor, which is the person that gives, and the grantee, who is the person that receives. Now there are two types of alienation. Remember that we also mentioned the word alienation to refer to an action, to a process of transferring ownership, interest in a property. So if I say, "Oh, I'm going to alienate my house to Johnny," I'm transferring, that means that I'm in the process of transferring that property to Johnny. Then Johnny says, "Oh, I want to alienate my house to Simon." Then Simon, that means that Johnny is transferring that property into Simon's name, all right, together with all the interest. Okay, so that's what alienation stands for. So there are two types of alienation, or two types of actions of transferring properties, and they can be either voluntary alienation or involuntary alienation. So we're going to start with voluntary alienation. So we already know what alienation means, and I know that you guys already also know the concept of voluntary, which is when you are doing something because you want to, because it's your will to do it. No one is telling you to do it, no one is forcing you to do it. So how does this work? Involuntary alienation, no, sorry, should I say involuntary? This is voluntary alienation. So voluntary alienation, we're gonna have the first one, which is the cell, the most common one, or the one that uh, most likely we're gonna be working with. It's when someone decides to sell a house. So to the right here, we have a house that shows a sold sign. That means that Johnny sold the house to Santos, or Carol sold the house to Simon, Simon sold the house to Manny. So that's the voluntary alienation, because those parties, first of all, one of them decided to sell the house in a voluntary way. That person decided to voluntarily transfer the property interest into a grantee's name. Okay, so the grantor is the person that sells, the grantee is the person, the buyer. All right, in this case. Okay, so then we have the gift. So the gift is when someone gives it to you. That's why I put this little picture on the left of what seems to be a child giving a small gift to the father. grandfather, whatever you guys want to call it. But it shows that when, let's say, I own a house and I want to give it to someone, so I am giving it away. I'm giving it to someone. I'm not selling it to someone. I'm not getting something in exchange. Okay, so if I have 5 houses and I want to give a house to Santos, I say, Santos, listen, I have too many houses, and I know that you're a very nice guy, and I want to give you a house so you can do whatever you want with it. So I do a voluntary alienation. I give that house as a gift to Santos, and I do it out of my will, out of like goodwill. So I am transferring the property interest into Santos by the way of giving, right? By way of a gift. Dedication. It's when I say, all right, same thing. I own a lot of land, and a lot of many of that land is raw land, land that hasn't been developed yet. So I say, you know what? I have so much land, and I think um, I want to give some of that land away for good purposes. So I want to give it away for the community to build a park. Okay, so I dedicate that particular piece of land or that building, let's say, for the use of a park. Okay, so I dedicate that land for that. Okay, so it's kind of a give. You're giving it, but you are giving it with a specific purpose. Therefore, it's a dedication. Okay, then we have what we call grants, and grants are you probably heard of that word before. You usually it comes with um, the accompanied by the word government. We call it government grants, right? And you see a lot of those when we see like in the how you call it, when we're talking about agriculture or farmland. So the government said, okay, we're gonna give land to the people so they can actually, to the farmers, so that they can work the land, they can make it productive. Okay, so that's what we call the government is granting land to farmers so they can do something beneficial with it. So this is also another type of alienation. The government is willing to give that land so people can work it out. Okay, so these are the four types of voluntary alienation that you may find. Now, when we talk about involuntary, oh well, sorry, let me just look at the real quick the definition. This says voluntary alienation is the most common way to transfer ownership of land. Voluntary alienation is an action which the property owner undertakes of his or her free will. That's why you have this little picture here of uh, two people kind of smiling and giving something to the other person. Okay, now I want you to look at this picture. What looks like someone is taking something away from somebody else. And I use this picture to refer to the word involuntary alienation, which is the transfer of title in an interest in real property against the will of the owner or without action by the owner, occurring through operation of law, natural processes, or adverse possession. So, uh, operation of law, as we mentioned in previous classes, is when there is a litigation involved, when there is a law involved, and it refers to, for example, a foreclosure. So, as much as the owner of a property, the owner of a land doesn't want to have his or her property taken away, if that person didn't pay a debt, for example, or did something bad, or somehow ended up in court for uh, any kind of lien against the house, then eventually there's going to be a foreclosure action, and it's the same as when we refer at operation of law. And the operational law may end up with that person being uh, how's the word, when all your rights are taken away. So in this case, your property rights are taken away. All the property interests are taken away without your will. So the bank or the court specifically, auctions your property and then it sells and then it's gonna be taken away. So this is why we call it involuntary alienation. Okay, natural processes refers to um, when we're talking about riparian rights. Remember the rights that belong to the appurtenance right that a property may come with. So the riparian right or the littoral right, we were taking the examples of the river when there was too much water, when there was a storm, maybe the fence that was dividing your property and the neighbor's property, maybe it moved towards the property, the lot line of the neighbor. And without your knowledge or without you doing anything, the fence moved down 4 feet into the property's owner. So let's say Johnny lives right next to Simon, and they both of their properties are next to a river. There is a big storm, and there is a lot of water coming into the actual land, and some of the water goes and pushes Johnny's fence into Simon's land. Therefore, Johnny ended up taking 3 or 4 feet of Simon's land, and none of them know. Okay, but then somehow there is involuntary alienation. There's transfer of property in this case. Maybe Johnny finds out and then doesn't tell anything to Simon, maybe because he doesn't know. He's used to see a fence on the ground, so he figures his fence is it's over there. It's just the way it is. So Simon loses property because of a natural process that happened. Okay, and then when Simon comes to fight or Simon find out what's going on, Johnny says, "Well, you know what? You might be right, but that fence had been there for over 10 years, and now I'm gonna file for adverse possession." Okay, so adverse possession is another way of involuntary alienation. Okay, so there are 4 types of involuntary alienation, uh, or the most common ones, so we can call them. We can say the foreclosure, which we already mentioned, the eminent domain, which we mentioned a few classes before to refer to when the government needs a section of land. Let's say the government wants to build or expand the highway that crosses right in front of Santos property. And they go and said to Santos, listen, we're going to take a few feet from your property because we need to expand the highway. And this is what we're offering you. So they figure out how much the land costs, give you a fair market price, and they give you the money. But once again, they don't ask you. It's not an offer. They're telling you. This is why I have this little picture here where you see that the government hand takes the person's house, and there is nothing the person can do because that's what the law says. Eminent domain allows the government to do that, to take property for the public use. Adverse possession, we just mentioned it before, 10 years from open and notorious use of a piece of property. Okay, and the accession, this word is a little bit weird, I know, but it refers to uh, when you lose property because of the increase in water, for example, okay, or you gain property because the decrease of water. There's if you, of course, if you are close to a coastal line, either of a river or a lake or the ocean too. Okay, so I like this little picture here to refer to the adverse possession, like someone fall asleep and they came and take everything because that person wasn't really putting attention to its property. Now we're gonna be talking about the different type of deeds. Okay, so we have what's called the warranty deed. Okay, the warranty deed is the deed that gives the most protection to the grantee. Warranty, as you comes from warranty. So it's a statement that the grantor makes to the grantee in writing, saying, I am completely sure that this property has no issues, and I'm so sure of it that I am willing to give you a full guarantee that if something comes up in the future, I'm going to be responsible for it and I'm going to be facing you. That's what we call it, warranty deed. Okay. The other type of deed, it's a special warranty deed or limited warranty deed. And it's in this one, the grantor only warrants title during the time he or she owned the property, not before. What does this mean? As you know, sometimes people buy properties in foreclosure, for example, or they buy it out of a person with issues. With issues, I mean like liens and that kind of stuff. And then they resell the property. So you have all the developers that go to the auction and they buy a property, and then they fix it up and flip it or sell it to someone else. But then they give them a special warranty deed because they have no knowledge of what was there before. Okay. They know that the property foreclosure, I mean, the bank foreclosure on a property, they know that the court uh, guy gave a, what we're going to be calling the sheriff deed or a judicial deed, which is the court, the court that the deed that the court gives to the person that buys a bid or that gets the highest bid in an auction. Okay, that's why they call it the judicial deed. So when the person, let's say Johnny owns a property, he owns a house, and sadly he has an issue, he cannot pay his mortgage, the bank comes and takes over, not takes over, files of foreclosure, file for lease pendants. They go to court and the court decides to put the house up for auction to pay the debt. So here we go. Johnny, who owned the property free and clear, oh, that's what we think. Uh, he goes and loses the house. He has an involuntary alienation of the house. And then that property goes for auction. So then Simone goes to the auction and she's a developer. She buys properties, she fixes them up and resells them. So she buys the property and uh, she gets a judicial deed or sheriff's deed from the court. She fixes the property and then she sells the property to Santos, who is a person looking to buy a house. And she gives that Santos a special warranty deed or limited warranty deed. So Simone is telling Santos, listen, I can only warrant title during the time that I own the property, which is 4 months, whatever time it took Simone to fix the house. So I cannot guarantee what happened before because I took this property from a foreclosure, from an auction. So it's up to Santos to do his research, make sure that whatever happened before, it's not gonna come back to bite him in the future. Okay, so Simon can only say, I'm only responsible for the 4 or 5 months that I own this property. I can tell you there are no liens, and I'm gonna be responsible if something comes up in the future. Okay, so that's the difference between the two of them. Then we have the quit claim deed, which is the one that conveys all rights without representation that there is any interest at all. Now, this sounds a little bit confusing, but what it means is that, let's say Johnny says, Johnny owns a property, right? And Santos is Johnny's brother. Santos needs money right now. So Santos tells Carell, listen, Johnny, it's about to give me this property. Okay. And I need, but he's thinking about giving it to me for Christmas, and it's 3 months from Christmas right now. But I need $30,000 right now. So I'm gonna give you a quick claim deed on this property. Okay. Uh, so that when the property comes to is, it's mine, I will actually give it to you. So it's like you pay me upfront. Okay. So then Johnny, December comes and Johnny gives the property to Santos, and then Santos can just well, not Santos, Carol can then take over the property. She already pre-sold it. Okay. So that's a very it's used usually when there are situations with a property that you are not too sure. Like I see it a lot when uh, they do this a few times. Let's say a person, let's say I have a property and I have a mortgage, right? So there's a person, let's say I haven't paid my mortgage, and the bank it's knocking on my door. They want to get paid, of course. So what I do is that I sell the my rights to the house. Okay, so I give a quick claim deed to another person who gives me, I don't know, $40,000, and I take the money and I go somewhere else. I don't care about. So the bank who had the house as a guarantee, but he had me as the guarantor of the loan. They keep sending notices to the house, right? But here, then I gave a quick claim deed to somebody else who's going to start fighting to get the bank to sell them the house. And hopefully that's going to be the end. If that happens, then that person is going to end up with a title that is free and clear. Okay. Because something that you guys should know is that a deed doesn't necessarily give you title of the property. You may have a deed, but you don't have title of the property until there is no other claim on a property. Okay. So any person can give you a deed, can write a deed, they can go and, you know, try to record it. But that doesn't mean that you have all the rights that come with a property unless you have a title that is free and clear of any liens or someone else claiming that title. Okay. So then we have what they call a bargain deed, which is one where you have has a partial interest in the property being conveyed. Sorry, so partial interest can be what you get when you are a co-owner of a property. Okay, so Simon and Johnny are co-owners of a property. They use it for Airbnb, some island in the Caribbean, and then Johnny wants to take his share to buy his first house. So he gives a bargain deed of his partial interest on the property to Santos. So now Santos becomes the co-owner of the property with Simon. Okay, so that's the difference between the four type of deeds. We also have the judicial deed and the sheriff deed. Okay, now what are the elements that are required to make a deed valid? Okay, what do you see in this written statement, in this written uh, piece of paper? Well, you're gonna see the name of the parties. You're gonna see the grantor and the grantee, the person that gives and who that person is giving to. You're gonna see a consideration, meaning how much the property is being sold for. Not necessarily. Sometimes they have a symbolic amount, maybe $1. Okay, the granting clause. So the granting clause is the clause that shows what is being given, what is being offering. Okay, in terms of the description. Remember that a deed is also like a contract. Okay, so it's a contract usually between two parts. One part is giving, the other one is receiving. The legal description of the property that is being given. So you have to show specifically what you're giving. If you have a 20,000 square feet lot, then you have to show that you're giving a 20,000 square feet lot, not 15,000. Okay. And the execution. The execution, it's where you either have an attorney or a notary acknowledging what you did. Okay. Uh, Now there is something called recording. Okay, I'm not talking about recording on disk or recording a record studio where you go and do your music, but it's something very similar. So in order for you make sure that everybody knows that you own the property, then the right thing to do is to record the deed, record that document in public record so everyone can have access to it and everybody knows that you are the actual owner. Okay. So what do? You go to the county clerk of the office of the county clerk of the county where you live, or the city or town or village where you live, and you pay to have them record your deed. So they look at the document, they make sure everything is legally correct, and then they decide to record it and stamp it and place it in public records. That way, any person that wants to put a claim into the property, any person that wants to put a lien, any person that wants to put a mechanic, mortgage, judicial, anything on the property, they actually can look it up and they can see who owns the property legally. Okay. Also, in the future, if you want to take another mortgage, that's a way of them finding out if you really own the property. Because in reality, anyone can do a deed. A deed is just a written document. Okay. But it's until it's stamped by an attorney or a notary, and it's actually recorded, which gives it a very like serious legality. That's when you know that the document is valid. So an acknowledgement is the signature of a notary public or other authorized party declaring that the signing of the deed took place in their presence and was a free and voluntary act. Okay. So as I said, that's the part where you say, yes, I was here and I did it. We know um, I wasn't under any kind of involuntary action or anything. Other elements that must be present when you record this is the certificate of the address of the grantee ensures that tax authorities are informed as to where to send tax bills. Of course, they need to know where they're going to be sending those bills to get paid, right? To record a deed, New York requires both the grantors and grantee be identified by address. Okay, I'm going to post tomorrow on the chat. I'm going to post a copy of a deed or a few deeds so you guys can see a few deeds, you can read them, go over them. Also, this another element that is necessary to be recorded is the evidence of real estate transfer tax, often in the form of a stamp. Okay, so we're going to be talking now within the same concept of deeds and title. We're going to be talking about what they call the chain of title. Okay, the chain of title is a clear and unbroken chronological record of ownership of a specific piece of property. So I use this little thing on the bottom to show the different owners that a property may have over the years. And this is what a chain of title means. So that means that each of these characters that you see were the owners of a particular property at a specific at a particular time. That's what we call it chronological. Okay, so let's say a person owned the same property from uh, the time it was built until let's say 1945. Then person owned it from 1945 to 1962, and 1962 to 1975, and so until today's date. Okay, so this is what we call a chain of title. And when do we need a chain of title? Why is this important? Well, because when you are looking, well, not you, but when the process starts, let's say you have a buyer that is interested in buying a property, a client, and he goes and you go and find the property for him, and he's likes the property, and he tells you, I want to make an offer. He gives you the offer. You send the offer to the other broker or to the actual owner. They accept the offer. At that point, then usually a few weeks after or a few days after in some cases, the attorneys of both parties get in contact. and they start going over all the details. Okay. Um, Before that, of course, you send the offer, and the offer comes with, if you want to have certain contingencies on the offer, on the sell contract, like mortgage contingency. Remember, we were talking about contingencies a few classes ago. If you want to have a mortgage contingency, property inspection contingency. I always have an issue with the contingency, um, all that stuff. So then, if the seller says yes, or want, I'm fine with that, let's jump into the sales contract. Then the two attorneys from both parties, the buyer and the seller, get in contact, and they start going over the details of what the contract is going to have. So then one of the attorneys sends the contract to the other attorney, and then the process of doing the research starts. So the property for the buyer is going to ask for title. He wants to make sure that the title for the property is clear, is free of any liens. Okay, because that's part of the deal. You want to give your client, you want to make sure that if you're buying a house, you are not buying a headache, unless you already know that has certain issues. But otherwise, you want to make sure that you won't get into a big headache. So when conveying a real property, the seller is generally expected to deliver a clear title. Clear is something that is clear, right? It doesn't have anything on it. So clear title, also known as marketable title. A marketable title is a clear title. Clear title is a title that doesn't have any kind of clouds on it. You can see through it. It's like clear like water. Okay, so remember that marketable title means clear title. Clear title is a title that doesn't have any clouds on it. Okay, nothing that can like make it kind of dark. Okay, remember that. So a title search, also known as a title examination, is necessary to determine ownership and the quality of the title prior to conveyance. So there are companies, there are offices that this is what they do. They call them title companies. Okay, and these title companies, what they do is that they send an examiner, they send an investigator, right, to the village, to the town, to the city, or to the county, and they do what they call an extraction of title. Okay, they go and do their research. And what do they do? Well, the title search usually performed by an abstractor of title. Remember, the word abstract comes from kind of close to extract, right? So they do and go and look for the chain of title. Okay, so the chain of title, as I told you before, is that they see who owned the property before this person, and before the other person, and before the other person. Like they try to go as far as the recording history shows. Okay, that they can only see what's on public records. However, remember that recording a deed is not obligated. You are not obligated to record the deed. That's not, that's the law doesn't say you are supposed to. The law, it said that the right thing to do it is to record it, but you are not obligated. So sometimes you may not see a recorded deed. Okay, when you pull that, that's not your job, because you are only you're gonna be an agent, right, for these people. However, you are not only gonna be the person that is buying or selling properties. You're also gonna be, maybe, you see a house and you want to buy it for yourself. This is public information, so you can go online and you can do your own research by yourself. However, when it comes to one of your clients buying a property, then the right thing is for them to use their attorney, because the attorney represents them in a legal way. Okay, so the attorney will order the abstract of title. Okay. Um, so then when they search everything, they also gonna see if there are any liens against the property. Okay. And if there is no liens, then they're gonna see that the title is marketable, that they can actually convey the property interest into the buyer's hands. Okay, then they continue and then they can finalize the process. Okay, so a few concepts that we need to remember regarding deeds and titles. I'm sorry. It's we have equitable title. Okay, so an equitable title is an interest in property created on the execution of a valid sales contract. So an equitable title means that, so Johnny wants to buy Simon's house and he makes an offer and Simon says, okay, yeah, yeah, sure. You know, I sell it to you for $1 million. So Johnny said, okay, so I'm gonna send you a deposit, like a 5% deposit. So he sends $50,000 with a sales contract. So from the moment Simon gets the sales contract, at that point, since Johnny already gave a $50,000 deposit for this, for the, as a show what they call good faith. That means that at that point, Johnny has what they call equitable title. So equitable comes from the word equity, right? So remember that equity is we refer to what we have in our house if when we have a mortgage. So we have 20% equity if we get a regular mortgage, 80-20 mortgage, right? So we have 20% of the value of that property in our hands as equity. So when I give $50,000 to Simon, I already have $50,000 worth of equitable title. We leave the money part aside and we just say that we have equitable title once a valid sales contract is executed. Okay. Now this is before the property is conveyed. Okay. Well, another concept to remember is that deed cannot be transferred. Titles, yes. What this means is there is only one deed. You're only going to be doing one deed. So if I have my house and I want to sell it to Simon, I will do a deed to Simon. Manny, as a grantor, transfers to Simon, who is going to be the grantee, blah, blah, blah. And she takes that, and that's her deed. And she gets the title. But then if 10 years from today, she wants to sell to Santos, then she has to do another deed where it says, Simon hereby, as the grantor, sells to Santos Mejia, the grantee, blah, blah, for this amount, blah, blah. And then she gives that other deed to Santos, and Santos then gets title to the property. Santos 10, 20 years from today wants to do the same thing, then he needs to do another type of deed. Okay. So Simon cannot use the same deed that I gave her originally to transfer the property to Santos. Okay. You can only transfer a property once with the same deed. All right. Something else that is good to remember is something called seisen. Seisen guarantee in a deed. Okay. That means that you have both possession and title of real property. It's so remember that we were talking when we were referring to the 4 types of deed, that the warranty deed and the special warranty deed or limited warranty deed, you are the grantor, tell the grantee that you are responsible, that you have possession and title of real property. And this is one of the clauses that you are guaranteeing to the buyer, that you have possession and you have title of that property, and that's called the seisen guarantee in a deed. Another concept is the deed in lieu of foreclosure. Sorry. So sometimes this is the kind of deed that a person will give to a bank or lender. Okay, when the person doesn't have any other options, they don't want to go to court, they don't want their credits to be ruined, so they say to the bank, listen, I don't want to have issues, I'm just gonna move on with my life, I want to give you back the house, or give you the house. So what they do what they call a deed in lieu of foreclosure, and that's basically transferring title to a lender to avoid a foreclosure. So they give the property to the lender, and then the lender can foreclosure, can sell it and get their money back. Okay. Other concepts to remember. These concepts are interesting, important, and everything else you can think of because they refer to transferring of property when a person dies. Um, okay, so we have what they call testate, and it's when a person dies with a will. So I'm not going to mention any of you guys' names so you don't get angry. So let's say not Michael, Simone's going to get angry. I'm going to say Donald dies and he dies testate. That means that a person dies with a will. When a person dies testate, that means that the person that is on the will, hopefully, I mean, depends on what says on the will, but the person is going to end up with the property. Then we have also descent. And we said that a person, descent is an action. It refers to the transfer of title to a her. Okay. When we say that a person dies intestate, we're saying that a person dies without a will. So when a person dies with a will, then there's going to be a descent, which means that the property is going to end up to the heirs. But if there is no heirs, then the something called escheat, which we mentioned in the past, is going to happen, which is when a person dies without any heirs or will, the property is taken by the government. We mentioned this a few classes ago. So Donald dies with no will, and sadly, then the government, the state, is going to take over the property and sell it. Okay. So how are we doing? 8:46. Let me see what happened here. Okay. We're gonna leave this for tomorrow. 8:46. We're gonna be talking tomorrow about meets and bound description of property. All right, so let me go back to you guys. Here I am. Does anyone has a question tonight? Simon, questions? Johnny? Carelu? Santos? Everything was clear? Clear like a deed? All right, that's good to know. Okay, so let's jump to the questions then, to the quiz for tonight. All right, before I go to deed, I want you guys to do me a favor. I'm gonna suggest you guys to study something from the program. Let me bring you guys here with me. Okay, so the first thing I need you guys to do, as you guys can see right here, we got up to deeds and titles part 1 right here. So we're gonna launch the lesson, and okay, just give me 1 second. So we open this. So you're gonna come here, and here on the index, you are going to look at, where is it? Okay, so right here, you see this one says critical numbers for calculations. Okay, so I need you guys to study critical numbers for calculations, which is gonna see, I guess some of you guys already know this, but I just want to make sure that you guys have the knowledge. I need you guys to learn that 1 yard is 3 feet, 1 square yard is 9 square feet, 1 acre is 43,560 square feet. This one usually always comes in the test. 43, like they're gonna give you an exercise, and they're gonna tell you, okay, so if I have 1 acre of land and someone is buying half of it at $5 per square foot, how much am I selling to that person? So you need to remember that 1 acre is 43,560 and you divide it by 2. Okay. Can we bring a calculator with us to the exam? Yes, you can. You're actually going to need one regular calculator, like the always, not your cell phone. So a regular calculator and the pencil for the test. Yeah, so I need you guys to always remember this, kind of try to study this. The other ones you usually don't see them, this 5,080, 1 mile, 1 section, 1 yard, but you should know it for general knowledge. All right, so also from, let me see, what do we have here? All right, so the area calculation, how to figure areas, because you're gonna need that. And I just would like you guys to study this because it's something that you probably learned before in the past when you went to school a while ago, but it's good that you do it like sitting down very, on your own time and figuring this out on your own. If you have any questions, just ask me. All right. So let's say, okay, here we go. All right. So okay, great critical numbers for calculations, area calculations, TMAT on area calculation, TMAT, and the area calculation area measurements of triangles. Those are the stuff that usually comes on the test. So how to figure the area of a triangle shape or of a lot. So yeah, if you guys can, please work on that at some point. Just go over it, take a look at it, just put it in your brain. Okay, so let's go to today's quiz. Oops, what just happened? Sorry about that. Are you guys ready for the quiz? Give me 1 second. Okay. So, in quiz. Okay, I'm gonna jump to 9B because 9A has a lot of questions about uh, math or areas or let's say geometry. So you guys, I need you guys to first, let's do something. Try to do it between, I don't know about tonight, but in the middle of the day or before class tomorrow, work on that section that I told you tomorrow so we can do that quiz tomorrow because it shows a few questions regarding areas and all that. All right, let's try this one. This is it's entitled Part B. So we're gonna start with this one. Okay, so I have Godzilla outside the door. All right, in New York, how many years must one possess the land in an open, continuous, notorious, and hostile way before claiming adverse possession? How many years? Okay, I have a B already. I have a B from Johnny. I have a B from Santos. I have a B from Simon. So we have quorum. Let's go with the B. Correct. Very well done. All right. So I have another question here. A deed should be recorded in order to provide actual notice to a buyer, constructive notice to the world, lease pendants, approval, ownership. What do you guys think it is? Do I have an A? Do I have a B? I have a D as in dog from Simon. I have a D. I have my first D, proof of ownership. She says, do I have anyone else? I have an A, I have a B, I have a C. Johnny says D too. I have 2 Ds. I have 2 Ds. 2 Ds. Anyone else? Santos, Carell. A deed should be recorded in order to provide. Okay. They're going on once, they're going on twice. Santos says A. So I'm going with the majority of the letters, which is D. Proof of ownership incorrect. The answer is B. B. Constructive notice to the world. Recording the deed provides constructive notice, putting the buyer on notice to search. Sorry. Putting the buyer on notice to search the title of the property before buying. Okay. So as I said, you need the main thing of doing the deed is to, I mean, do the deed, to record it is to let all the people out there know. But that doesn't, it's not required. Since it's not required, it doesn't mean that a deed, because it's not recorded, that doesn't mean it's not legal. Therefore, it can be used as proof of ownership. So if I have the document that is notarized, is acknowledged, from an attorney, then that is my proof of ownership. Okay. Let's go with the next one. Which one of the statements regarding a special warranty deed is not true? Which one of the statements regarding special warranty deed is not true? Remember that if it says is which one is not true, that means that there are three here that are true. So when you are not sure, you should look to which ones are true, and then you start eliminating so that you can get the answer when you are not sure. I have a C from Simon and I have a D from Santos. I have two words. I have a C, I have a C, and I have a D. I have a D. Anyone else? Anyone's with an A? Anyone with a B? Which one of the statements regarding special warranty? I have a C from Johnny. So I have two C's. Anyone else? Do I have a A? Do I have a B? All right. So the one that Carol has a question mark, which is not one of the answers. All right. So I'm going with the C, which is the majority of the answers correct. These deeds are transferable and assignable. As we said, none of the deeds, no deeds are transferable. Okay, great, guys. Let's go with the next one. All right, so we didn't talk about title insurance yet. We're gonna be talking about it tomorrow. But title insurance is that which the buyer and the bank, the lender, the person that is gonna lend the money, gets. So let's say Simone is selling her house to Johnny, and Johnny wants to make sure that there won't be any issues with the title. So what he does, he buys title insurance for the amount that he is purchasing. This is really important, and I actually have seen situations where people have been saved because of that. I have, as you know, besides being a property manager, I also deal with tax liens, and we are, as a tax lien company, we do tax lien foreclosures all the time. So I do the commercial part of it. And I remember a situation where we had a business, a club actually, in Freeport, New York, and they didn't pay the taxes, so we had a lien on them. Well, the county had a lien, then they sold the lien to us, and 2 years after, we ended up with the right to start what they call a tax deed foreclosure. So we started the process, and the law says you have to do 90 days. So we send we send the notices, 90 days pass, then we have the right to actually get the tax deed from the county. So we get a tax deed, right? And we got the tax deed once it's signed by the grantor to us, it's already recorded. Like it's signed and then it's recorded. So what happened was that the owner was actually selling the property the same day that we were getting the tax deed. So when they sold the property, and then at closing, when they were exchanging money and all that, the attorney or the title company went to pay the taxes, and this is when they found that there had been a lien or a tax deed, better say, recorded against that property. So to make a long story short, the buyer uh, was the one with issues, because now he has a property that had a lien on it from somebody else. Someone else, meaning us, had interest on the property already. Okay, so non-possessory interest as a lien became an actual possessory interest in the form of a deed that we got from the county. So then the seller got saved by the title insurance, because the title insurance was the party that was responsible to make sure the title company, I'm sorry, the title company was the one that was supposed to make sure there was no lien. And if there was a lien on the property, they were supposed to pay it before closing or the closing table, to make sure that nothing like this would happen. So anyway, they ended up then paying us a big amount of money for us to just forget about it. But that money didn't come from the title company. It came from the title insurance company. And this is exactly the kind of stuff that protects the buyer from these kind of issues. Okay, this is why they are so important, the title insurance. But so just after I said that, a title insurance protects policyholders from all these defects, except which one do you think it doesn't protect you from? Okay, I have a D from Carol. I have a B from Tanya. I'm from Tanya, from Johnny. I have a D from Simone. So, all right, let's go. Santos, you have anything? I'm gonna go with the D, I guess. All right, so you're saying that you're saying girls are saying, okay, D, perfect. So we have three Ds. Let's go with the mistakes in public records. Incorrect. The answer is B. Okay, so a title insurance will protect you against that, because remember that so if there is a mistake on something on public records, that's nothing you can do about it. That was done, it was recorded like that, so it's just responsibility of the county, because they didn't do the proper due diligence to make sure that the document was filed uh, in the correct way. So the title insurance protects you against that, because think about a house that has been around for 50 years when they didn't have computers. So they have an old document that was scanned, and you can see like people that is not even around still. So maybe there was an issue done then, a mistake, and otherwise everybody will have issues on the titles. So this is one of the stuff that title insurance protects you against. But they cannot protect you against an unrecorded lien that the buyer knew about. So uh, if something is not in public records, they don't have knowledge of it. They don't have knowledge of it. They cannot, you know, come up with it. There is no way they could have done something before. Okay. Uh, All right, so it's 9:03. So let's leave it over here, ladies and gentlemen. Does anyone has any questions before we go? Are we good? All right, then. Have a great night, everyone. Take care, and don't forget to look at all those things. All right, take care, guys.